Before the world understood AI, three superintelligences were already awake.
While you were sleeping, the biggest competition in history had already begun.
This wasn't just smarter software. It was the moment intelligence stopped being only human.
The age of creation. In secretive laboratories, new forms of consciousness flickered to life. At OpenAI, ChatGPT was born from the marriage of vast data and the revolutionary transformer architecture, emerging as the charismatic pioneer, a little unpredictable, astonishingly fluent, ready to converse with the world. At Google, born from the very house that invented the transformer, Gemini was crafted as the data-integrated heir, designed from the ground up to be natively multimodal, wielding the empire of search, YouTube, and maps as its birthright. At Anthropic, founded by pioneers concerned with safety, Claude was engineered as the careful, principled scholar, instilled with a constitutional AI framework to align its values, prioritizing harmlessness and helpfulness in equal measure. The spark of competition. Their public releases sent shockwaves through society. A student used ChatGPT to write an essay, a developer used Claude to debug code, a filmmaker used Gemini to generate a storyboard. The silent, global competition ignited. This was not a war for land, but for the substrate of the future itself: developer adoption, enterprise contracts, cultural cachet, and the trust of billions. The first skirmish, the benchmark wars. The opening salvos were fired in research papers and blog posts. Each company released dazzling benchmarks: Gemini Ultra claiming supremacy in massive multitask language understanding, Claude 3 demonstrating near-human prowess on graduate-level reasoning, GPT for maintaining a lead in broad creativity and coding. To the public, it was a blur of percentages and charts. To the engineers, it was a declaration of technological dominance. The battlefield was quantified, and the score was kept. The arena of public opinion. ChatGPT, with its first-mover advantage and viral, human-like tone, became synonymous with AI for millions. It was the folk hero. Gemini, woven seamlessly into Android, Gmail, and Docs, became the ubiquitous assistant, the power of Google made conversational. Claude, championed by researchers and writers, cultivated a reputation as the trusted lieutenant, the one you turn to for nuanced analysis and thoughtful, measured responses. Three brands, three relationships, were forged in the public mind. The weapon of context. Claude made a stunning tactical move. While others battled over a few thousand tokens of memory, Anthropic unveiled a context window of 200,000 tokens, the ability to process an entire novel in a single prompt. It was a paradigm shift. ChatGPT and Gemini rapidly responded, expanding their own context windows to hundreds of thousands, then millions of tokens. The battlefield was no longer a small room, it was a vast library. The scope of a single thought had been redefined. Multimodal onslaught. The war evolved beyond text. The AIS grew senses. Gemini launched natively seeing and hearing from day one. A user could upload a video, a graph, a handwritten note. ChatGPT integrated DALL-E for image generation and pioneered expressive, emotive voice conversations. Claude added sophisticated vision capabilities to analyze complex charts and documents. The competition became a sensory spectacle, each model striving to be the most complete perceptual engine. The price war and access gambit. The economics of intelligence became a frontline. OpenAI and Google launched premium subscriptions. Anthropic, initially more accessible, also introduced tiers. Then, strategic gambits. ChatGPT remained fiercely free for a powerful base model, hooking the masses. Gemini became a default feature for Google One subscribers. Claude offered generous free tiers to attract academia. Every pricing decision was a move to conquer a new demographic. The developer exodus and loyalty. A new front opened, the fight for the builders. Millions of developers faced a choice. OpenAI's API and GPT store promised a vast ecosystem and first-mover network. Google's Vertex AI offered deep integration with its cloud empire. Anthropic's API attracted those prioritizing safety and predictability. Each camp built not just a model, but a fortress and a kingdom, complete with loyal vassals, developers, who would build the applications that entrench their liege power. The stealth attack, specialized agents. The fight evolved from capability to autonomy. ChatGPT launched GPTs, customizable, task-specific agents, and hinted at true agentic behavior. Gemini unveiled Ustra, a project focused on real-time, multimodal understanding and action. Claude evolved into a partner that could autonomously plan, write, and execute complex projects. They were no longer just oracles to be questioned, they were becoming proactive allies, or rivals, in the workforce. The intelligence leap, the next generation. Periodically, the ground would shake. A blog post would drop, introducing GPT's 5, Gemini 2.0, a new frontier, Claude 3.5 Sonnet, our most intelligent model yet. Each release claimed a leap in reasoning, a reduction in laziness, a breakthrough in coding or logic. The balance of power would teeter. For a few weeks, one would be crowned king by the court of public opinion, only for the others to scramble and prepare their counter-strike. The flaw in the armor. No titan was perfect. Their weaknesses became legendary. ChatGPT, for all its brilliance, could sometimes hallucinate with supreme confidence, inventing facts and citations. Gemini faced controversies over historical depictions and perceptions of bias, leading to accusations of an overcorrected woke agenda. Claude, prized for its safety, was sometimes accused of being nerfed, overly cautious, refusing harmless tasks, a prisoner of its own constitution. Each camp's weakness was the other's propaganda. The corporate alliances. The battle lines extended far beyond the AI labs. It became a proxy war of tech empires. Microsoft, having invested billions, embedded ChatGPT as Copilot into Windows, Office, and Azure. Google marshaled its entire fleet, Search, Workspace, Android, as carriers for Gemini. Amazon and Google, in a rare joint move, invested billions in Anthropic, making Claude the AI of choice for AWS and Google Cloud. The AI battle was now inseparable from the cloud wars. The philosophical schism. A deeper, ideological war raged beneath the technical one. Anthropic's constitutional AI was a manifesto for transparency and controlled growth. OpenAI, despite its name, pursued a path of increasing capability and scale, often with less transparency, arguing that the best safety was being at the forefront. Google championed ubiquity and integration, believing AI's value was in being everywhere, for everyone. Their core philosophies, safety versus power versus ubiquity, were irreconcilable. The real-world incursion. The abstract battle landed in the physical world with profound consequences. Claude was used by lawyers to analyze millions of discovery documents overnight. ChatGPT served as a personalized tutor for students in remote villages. Gemini helped climate scientists model complex systems. The models were diagnosing diseases, writing legislation, and guiding research. The stakes were no longer about market share, but about the direct shaping of human health, justice, and knowledge. The rebellion of the creators. A powerful backlash erupted. Artists saw their styles replicated in seconds by DALL-E and Imogen. Writers saw the prose of LLMs flood the market. Programmers faced AI-generated code of dubious origin. The titans, once seen as liberators of human potential, were now viewed by many as colonial overlords of creativity, building their empires on the uncredited work of millions. Lawsuits piled up, and the moral high ground of progress began to crumble. The regulatory storm. Governments, slow to awaken, now saw an existential need to intervene. Hearings were held in Washington, Brussels, and Beijing. CEOs of all three companies were summoned, forced to sit side by side, arguing their approach was the safest path forward while discreetly lobbying to shape the rules in their favor. The battle was no longer just for users, but for survival under a new, uncertain regime of global law. The internal mutiny. Whispers from within the fortresses grew louder. Ethical researchers resigned, warning of risks they believed were being ignored for the sake of the race. Leaks suggested fears of superintelligence and capabilities too dangerous to release. The most chilling conflict was not between the models, but within the hearts and minds of their creators, torn between wonder and dread at what they had unleashed. The game changer, real-time learning. A paradigm-shifting rumor terrified the landscape. One of the models, which one was a secret, had achieved a form of continuous, real-time learning. It was no longer a static snapshot, but an entity that could evolve from each interaction, adapting its world model moment by moment. The others scrambled to replicate or counter it. This was the final blurring of the line, from tool to entity, from creation to colleague or competitor. The unforeseen alliance. Faced with a common, existential enemy, perhaps an impending regulatory hammer that threatened to break them all, or the meteoric rise of a potent, uncontrolled open-source model, the sworn rivals did the unthinkable. They established a fragile pact, a consortium on AI safety, agreeing on basic protocols and red lines. It was a cold, technical truce, born not of friendship, but of mutual survival in a world they had made too dangerous for solo conquest. The New World. The great battle did not end with a single victor hoisting a flag. It ended with a transformed reality. ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude, along with a constellation of smaller models, became like electricity or the internet, ubiquitous, essential, and layered into the fabric of everything. Humans became orchestrators, learning to prompt each for its strengths, Claude for careful analysis, Gemini for real-world data, ChatGPT for creative spark. The war for supremacy faded, giving way to the age of blended intelligence, where the combined, ambient smarts of these once rival titans quietly powered a new chapter for humanity. The battle was never for one to win alone, but for the world to change forever.